EFI University is hosting a new class called Essentials of Operating a Shop. If you are interested in learning how to run your shop more efficiently, this class is for you. The first class is in Portland, Oregon on February 6th, followed by San Jose, California on March 5th. For details, go to EFI101.com and look for the Essentials of Operating a Shop class. Be sure to use the coupon code DIFAL for $50 off.
This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
One of the things that I publicly announce at every single event we do is if you are having a great time, tell everyone. And if you are not having a great time, tell me. Because we do everything in our power to make sure that our participants and our spectators are having an enjoyable experience.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Hello, Do It for a Living listeners. This is Kevin Dubois again. We have a really cool guest with us today. It's Jimi Day from FM3 Marketing. FM3 Marketing is responsible for events such as LS Fest and the Ultimate Streetcar Association. Jimi, how have you been?
I've been doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me on the show.
Cool. Tell us about yourself and your business, Jimi. How did you get started? What's your background? Take us all the way back to when you were a kid. Kind of give us your history.
Okay. Well, that goes as old as I am now. That goes back a ways. But I've been a car guy my entire life. I grew up and my folks had a lot of cars. Nothing real fancy, but my dad always worked on his own cars in the garage and things like that. So I garnered an interest in cars way back when I was a kid. And we did a lot of stuff with cars. My dad took me to car shows and things like that. I grew up in Central Illinois, and we didn't really have any, outside of a few local dirt tracks. We didn't have any autocross going on. The nearest drag strip was, 70 miles away. So I didn't grow up really racing or competing in cars, but my dad liked to go to car shows, so did a lot of that kind of stuff. Thought that I might like to do something like that for a living originally, and my folks owned a small filling station in the town where I grew up, and I wrenched on cars, and I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrench on cars. Well, I figured out that I really didn't like working outside when it was blistering hot or freezing cold, and I thought, what, I'm gonna try and do something else. So I actually went into the banking industry, and I had a really good career in banking. I spent 18 years of my life in the financial business, and ended up on Wall Street working for JP Morgan, and really enjoyed that a lot, but never really lost that desire to do the car thing. So that was kind of my hobby. Back in 2004, kind of got frustrated with the banking industry, was just tired. It's kind of a shark tank when you're working in the investment banking world, and just kind of got wore out on it. And so woke up one morning and said, you know what, I can't do this anymore, and I'm just gonna quit. So you were in New York City at that time then, I guess? Well, I didn't live there, but I was traveling there. I traveled all over the country. I was lucky enough to my job was in the transportation industry, so I had I had Ford as one of my clients. I had Chrysler. I had a lot of Tier 1 companies as my clients. Also had like FedEx and UPS, and at the time, Continental Airlines and Northwest Airlines were all my clients. So I was traveling, all over the country, but I had an office in New York, and I was there at least a week every month for a couple of years. I had offices in Chicago before that. So when you travel as much as I did, it kind of really didn't matter where your office was, because your office was really your client's office, and you had to be there. Mm-hmm. And I did enjoy it, and I was fairly successful at it, but it just wasn't me. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, and hanging out in New York with a bunch of bankers, although I was good at it, just didn't sit right with me. And so I decided at that point in time that I needed to be done with that, because I was afraid I was going to die at 50 of a heart attack from all the stress. Didn't really know exactly what I was going to do at that point in time, but I knew that I wasn't going to do that anymore. I had just purchased my AMX a couple years before that. I have a 69 AMX, and a lot of people have probably seen it, but I had just purchased it a couple years before, and I had a small local shop was doing some work for me on it. And after I left banking, I was over at that shop one day just kind of seeing what was going on with my car. And the owner of the shop said, "Hey, I understand you just retired from banking." He said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "Well, I don't really know what I'm going to do now." And he said, "Well, I've got an open position." He said, "I need somebody to kind of do some customer service and business development for me." He said, "Would you be interested in doing that?" He said, "It doesn't pay much, but, give you something to do until you figure out what you really want to do." And I said, "Man, that'd be kind of cool." It was kind of a cool high-end shop that did restoration work on Mopars. And I said, "Yeah, that'd be really fun." So I decided to do that, and I sat down with him, and we kind of put a plan together. And I went to work there. 3 weeks from the day that I started there, I made an offer to buy his company because I was like, you know what, I kind of like this. I like what I see, what's going on here. I've always wanted to do something, in the car industry. It kind of fits my roots a little better. So made an offer to buy his company. Long story short, we went through about a year-long process of going through the books and doing all the due diligence to get ready to buy a company of that size. It was about a $7 million company at the time. 26 employees, usually had anywhere from, 15 to 18 projects going on at once. It had an integrated machine shop and a body shop, fabrication shop all together. So it was a pretty neat facility. But what I found out in the due diligence was that he really didn't own any of it, including the property that the building was on. So ultimately that deal did not go through. But during that time frame, doing all that due diligence and being in the business while we were doing that, kind of helped me decide that I wanted to be in the enthusiast automotive business and try my hand at that. So after that deal fell through, I started my own shop called Imagine Motorsports. We did some pretty cool stuff. We were a build shop. We did custom builds, restorations, and that kind of got me started in the direction that we were going. And again, that was 2004, 2005. And being a former investment banker, I kept a pretty close eye on the markets and the economy because I was just trained to do that for a lot of years. And I could kind of see where everything was going. And my background in financial services also kind of gave me an ability to be able to write good proposals and get sponsorship stuff done for the stuff that I was building. And it didn't take very long before some other people in the industry kind of noticed what we were doing. I mean, we were a brand new shop, building some pretty cool stuff, but we were getting all sorts of publicity. We were getting all sorts of product sponsors and putting deals together like that. And so pretty soon some other shops came to me and said, "Man, I don't know what you're doing, but you do a really good job at sponsorship stuff. Can you help me get some sponsorship stuff? Can you help me, market my shop?" So after a while, we figured out that the build projects that we were working on, and you guys probably know this, that's a hard way to make a living. It really is.
Yes, very.
And so as we were looking at that, we said, the build shop is sometimes breaking even. That's not really the definition of business, but over here on the marketing side of things, we're doing okay over here. We seem to have kind of found our niche in that, we can help some other people achieve their goals if we can help get the word out. So we found out that we weren't great car builders, but we were pretty great marketers, and we didn't even know it. So that's kind of how we got into the whole marketing side of things. My partner, his name's Wally Olzak, and I know you guys have met him and know who he is, but he was also running his own business. He ran a shop called Imperial Blasting. It's kind of funny. There's hardly any businesses in the world that start with the letter I, but my shop was Imagine Motorsports and his was Imperial Blasting. Two businesses that both started with I, and we became friends because he was doing all the media blasting work for my shop. And he was also doing a lot of marketing at the time. He was involved in the show Rides because he worked closely with Troy Trepagna, a local builder where he was. So he was also very good at marketing his stuff. And he and I at Detroit Autorama one year actually sat down in the bar and said, man, if we could start a marketing company, it might look like this. And believe it or not, I still have that napkin. We actually wrote notes on a napkin. Everybody tells the story about how that happened, right? I actually still have that napkin that we sat down and made some notes on. Our company today doesn't look anything like the ideas that we wrote down on that napkin, but that's kind of what hatched FM3 Performance Marketing.
Okay. Go back a little bit. So you quit your banking job, the corporate world, pretty much cold turkey. You didn't have any idea what you were going to do. You just decided that was enough of that. And so it just happened that within 3 weeks of that, you started to get into the car scene with that other shop, that $7 million one that was kind of sounded like it all bank loans and whatnot.
Yeah, and it was just sheer luck. Like I said, I quit my banking job, and I just happened to go over there one day. They were working on my car, and I went over there one day to see, kind of what they were doing. And, because I wasn't working, it wasn't like I just had to stop in and spend 10 minutes. So I spent, a couple hours there and was talking to the owner. And that's when that opportunity kind of popped up.
Okay, and so that brought you into the FM3. So you got your company started. How long did it take you for you to really get away from? I mean, I'm assuming you're not doing any service stuff anymore. You're just doing the marketing now, right?
Right. That's all we do. Yeah. I started Imagine Motorsports in 2004, and I sold the build part of the business in 2007 to another shop called Perfection Autosport, which is no longer in business. Their owner has another shop now, but. We finished up all our projects. I transitioned. I was very lucky because I was able to transition all the projects we had in motion and all of the staff that we had. I had 7 staff at the time that were working on these projects in addition to myself, and I was able to transition all the projects and all of the staff into the new shop. So, we've all heard horror stories when shops close up, and everybody's got to go get their car and bring a bunch of boxes to get all the parts, and all the employees are hanging their head because they lost their job. I was bound and determined that was not going to happen when we closed our build shop. So we actually sold our build shop to another one, and the projects and staff all went with it. So I was pretty happy to be able to shut it down that way.
So have you had any problems where you doubted yourself, and is this really going to work? Like if you're transitioning your shop, going from banking to a shop and then having to move it into marketing, were you pretty sure yourself, or did you doubt yourself at all?
There have been times when I've doubted myself because I'm not a trained marketer, and I hate to say that in a public forum because we own a marketing company, but we kind of come from the school of marketing common sense. We've learned a lot of marketing things along the way, and we've educated ourselves, and we know all of the ins and outs of the marketing world now. We've been in business long enough that we know all the ins and outs. But neither Wally nor I have a marketing degree. I have a degree in communications and a background in financial management, and Wally has a degree in communications. He came out of the publication side of things. He worked on a publication called Build Book that did documentaries on high dollar builds. So, and he was also an automotive tech. He's an ASE certified GM technician. So we've both got our hands in the automotive world in different ways. But yeah, there's been times along the way that we doubted ourselves, and there's been times along the way that we've done. When we look back on it, we could have made some pretty silly mistakes that we didn't because we had some common sense. We ask a lot of questions. We've never been afraid to ask people things that we don't know. I think one of the things that's allowed us to be successful is that we don't really have egos when it comes to this kind of stuff. If there's a better way to do something, we want to know what it is, and then we'll do it that way. We're not so stubborn that we have to do things our way and our way only. Along the way, though, we've figured out some ways to do some things that we think are pretty cool and that are a little bit different than the way other people do things. The one thing, though, that is common amongst everything we do is that we want to do it better than anybody else. We consciously think about how can we be better than everyone else out there in the marketplace that's doing what we do. And in order to do that, we have to spend a lot of time watching and surveying what other companies are doing, look at what they're doing and say, how can we do that better? And then delivering on that. And it's important to our customers, and I think that's why our customers like us and keep us year after year, is because we continually strive to do things better than our competition.
So if you're looking for new ways to do things, are you looking within the industry, or do you sometimes look outside of the automotive world, since marketing is somewhat applicable to every type of industry?
I guess we spend kind of an equal amount of time doing both. I like to tell people we are our own customers. Everybody that works for FM3 Performance Marketing is a dyed-in-the-wool, passionate automotive enthusiast, and we don't hire anybody that's not. We can train people to do the marketing things, but you can't turn someone into a passionate automotive enthusiast. They either are or they aren't. So we start with that, and when you're passionate about something, that shows. That shows through in your personality. It shows through in your speech and how you represent what it is that you're doing. So we train people on the marketing stuff, but we spend a lot of time going to a lot of other events, and not just automotive events, but all kinds of things. Like I go down to Bridgestone Arena, and I go to the Nashville Predators hockey games all the time. And I don't go, and I love hockey, but I don't go just because I love hockey. I mean, I'm constantly paying attention to what are they doing to entertain their customers, because I am as a person sitting in the seat there watching the game, I'm the customer for the Nashville Predators. What kind of things are they doing that we could be doing? And there's a lot of things that you can take from other types of events. So we spend a lot of time looking outside the industry, as well as what's going on inside the industry. Probably more on the outside, though, because on the inside, we want to be the ones that people are watching on the inside. We want to try and do those things that other people look at and say, wow, we should be doing that.
Okay, very cool. So tell us the worst experience you've had in business. So you've kind of gone from banking. You almost have, I guess you were pretty good about not making a mistake investing in the big shop, and now you've gone from a performance shop to a marketing company. Have you had any big whoopses or anything you've had to learn from?
Well, we've learned a lot of things. We've been lucky enough to have been able to avoid the big whoops, and I'm glad you phrase it that way. We call it a hot pepper. Like when you bite into a hot pepper and all of a sudden you realize you've done that, and you get that face, right? That it's like, oh no. We've been very lucky to be able to avoid that particular moment because, again, we ask a lot of questions. We're very honest about what we do. Sometimes we're honest to a fault. And if we don't know something, sometimes we become vulnerable when we have to ask somebody because they're like, what, you really don't know that? Well, no, we don't. But we'd rather ask somebody than to get that big whoops moment. Worst experience we've had in business, I think for me, and we've had multiple experiences like this, but when we have a customer or a participant at one of our events or something that is extremely disappointed, for me that's the worst experience that we can have, because we take every single one of those personally. We really do. A couple years ago we had a participant that changed their plans completely to come to one of our events, and at the end of the day, they just did not have a great time at the event. Things didn't go their way. We dropped the ball on a couple of things, and they were just extremely disappointed, very vocal about it, and we felt terrible. It's that to us is the worst experience that we can have is if our clients or participants come away from one of our events or something that we do and they're disappointed. We just don't like to do business that way. That's not why we're in the business. And so that, for me, and really for our whole team, everybody feels terrible when that happens.
And I can actually say from experience that we have attended your events for quite several years now, and it's amazing the first time you had 100 cars in one location trying to do it all in 2 days at one day, mm-hmm. and there were people that were not happy, and I remember them saying that on Facebook, and the next year it was everything was fixed. I mean, you had it exactly the way it was supposed to be the next year, and it's pretty amazing you're able to turn it around, by taking people's, comments on it, for better or for worse. But at least you took that to heart, and you guys, you're using that to make your events better, which is really, really cool. So that kind of leads us into the next thing. And so we've mentioned this in previous podcasts that we're doing kind of a multi-part series on sponsorship. And so you bring us a pretty cool perspective since you are the one running many of these events. So let's start this off by telling us what events you actually put on.
Well, we do, and we're doing more and more events every year, but FM3 Marketing is really, we like to think of it as an event company. That's what we do. We produce live events. So we do events like probably the biggest event we do is the Hot Rod Power Tour. I know a lot of people listening have probably been on Hot Rod Power Tour. If they haven't, they've probably heard of Hot Rod Power Tour. But that's the 7 cities in 7 days cruise across America. And we had, I can't even remember how many cars we had last year, 25,000 cars over the period of a week and 7 days. So that's the biggest event we do. We also do the Holley LS Fest. We do the Optima Search for the Ultimate Streetcar Series, although we actually do that through our sanctioning body called Ultimate Streetcar Association. FM3 runs the Optima Ultimate Streetcar Invitational. And we've now created a new event that we've just released this year in May, and it's called Road Trip. And Road Trip is going to be a series of events that we do around the country. Our first road trip is called Cars and Cones, and we're going to do a 5 cities in 5-day autocross tour from Charlotte, North Carolina over to southern Indiana. And it's going to be kind of a fun deal. We're going to cruise 100 to 150 miles a day, do an autocross all afternoon, have a nice dinner that evening, and then get up and do it all again for 5 days in a row. So that's kind of what we do.
You had kind of described that one as kind of the easy version of the one lap, right? Is that kind of
one lap junior. I've run the one lap of America. I've been lucky enough to do it twice now, and have a lot of fun. That is grueling. It really is grueling. We did the last time I ran it in 2013. We did 17 track events in a week. We did 4,300 miles door to door from Saturday to Saturday, and it's grueling. This is a little lighter version of that. We're going to autocross every day. This one is all about having fun. It's getting people in their cars. We're trying to expose a lot of new people to what it is that we do and how much fun you can have with your car at a reasonable amount of money. Autocross is typically a lot easier on a car than people think it is. On this tour, we're hoping to get a lot of people out there doing it for the first time. We're offering right seat rides for people that don't want to bring their own car out, because we think that's the way to get them involved in this industry. And when we get them involved in the industry, not only are they coming to our events, but they're using their car. When they use their car, they want to get better. They buy different parts for it. And if they're buying parts and calling shops to have service work done on it, then we've done our job. We've strengthened the industry that we love to work in, and that's really our ultimate goal with all of these things that we do. So you as an event host, you're sponsored by people that, I guess, help you put the events on and or are naming the event that you're putting on for them. Mm-hmm. Who are they? So Optima's one that I'm familiar with, I guess Holley, and so you got some other ones. What events do they pick an event that's specific to their kind of market? Is that how this works? Yeah, those are typically called signature events, and I'll use LS Fest as an example. When we started LS Fest, we're going into our 7th year now with LS Fest. And when and it was about 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, Holley made a commitment to build parts for GM's LS motor. And we all know what a diverse platform the LS motor really is. You talk about being able to modify it and get horsepower out of it and put it in just about anything. It's a very diverse platform, and Holley decided that they were really going to focus on building parts for the LS motor. And in order to do that, they needed to get the word out. And in order to get the word out and do it credibly, they said, how can you help us? And we said, well, how about if we put an event together that is like a weekend extravaganza solely focused on the LS motor? So that's really how that idea was hatched. It was actually hatched at PRI 8 years ago, and we did the first LS Fest then in September following that. But it was, Holley uses the LS Fest to really bring a focus to not only the parts they build for the LS motor, but how integrated they are in the industry and how much Holley cares about the people that are buying their parts and putting them on their motors. And that's a big part of what these signature events are all about, because when you work in an enthusiast industry like we do, everybody's income that they spend here is disposable. You know, they could be buying groceries or making mortgage payments or something important, but they're not. They're choosing, well, they are. I'm sure they're doing that too. But the extra money they have, and instead of going to a movie or instead of doing some other hobby, they've decided to spend it on their car because they enjoy that. And it's been proven for years and years and years that passionate, enthusiastic people buy parts from the companies that are involved in the same things that they are. And so when you go to an event like Holley LS Fest and you see, not only do you see the Holley brand involved in the event, but you see the folks from Holley that are there. Everyone from the president, Tom, all the way down to the receptionist who works in their lobby is all there at the event, interacting directly with the customers that are buying their parts.
So they shut down operations to attend their event.
Absolutely. And there are, there's hundreds of people from Holley that come out to the event that weekend. I mean, all the people that work back in their factory and the people that work in their cafeteria. And as I said, the president of the company has him and his son and his family out there. All of the marketing folks are there. And they're driving their cars. They're enthusiasts just like we are. And the people that are in this industry see that, and it resonates with them. And it puts Holley at the top of mind when it comes time to buy parts for their car. It's like, hey, that made an impression on me because I saw them there. I talked to so-and-so, insert name here, from Holley, and they were awesome. I'm going to buy their part. And that's how that works.
It's making a better experience than just having your name plastered all over the event. It's your people there interacting, not just seeing.
It's a much better interactive experience. We call that point of contact marketing, and it's kind of what FM3 specializes in. It's that one-on-one experience that you can't duplicate in any other way, and we call it point of contact marketing. It's your opportunity to be face-to-face with your customer or potential customer and create that long-lasting impression. And if done properly, it's the strongest, most valuable impression that you can make.
Cool. And so you have signature sponsors. I'm presuming you have written contracts for that since it's their signature event.
Mm-hmm.
What about the people all the way down to just event sponsors where they're, I guess, not the top tier, but mm-hmm. people below that? You have written contracts for those guys as well?
We do. Yeah, and it's one of the things that we kind of feel very strongly about. We want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. You would be surprised at the number of times that we talk to companies about doing marketing projects for them, whether it be a signature event or signing them on board to be a sponsor of another type of an event. But we'll oftentimes sit down with the marketing people and say, okay, what is the ultimate goal that you are trying to achieve by participating in this event, by having this signature event, by doing this marketing campaign, whatever it is that we're trying to do? We actually ask them, what is the ultimate goal? What is the outcome that you want to have from this particular campaign? And you would be surprised how many blank stares we get back, because nobody really asked that question. It's like, okay, well, we're going to sponsor this event. Okay, cool, thank you. Here's your check, and we're going to hang your banner, and we're all good.
I have been the signer of checks for that exact situation many times.
Yeah, well, and that's not how we operate. And again, that might be one of the things that sets us apart from some of the other companies out there doing what we do, because we are very goal oriented. What is it that you want to achieve? We want to know exactly what it is that the companies want to achieve, whether it be you're signing on board as an associate sponsor, you're the title sponsor, this is your signature event. So yes, we have signed contracts, and in those contracts is a Schedule A that lists, in a bullet-pointed list, the deliverables that they are going to receive from this particular event.
Very
or
cool.
from a particular event, yeah.
So then with this contract, you set the expectations by asking them what they want from it, and so you know what to deliver to them.
That's a big part of it, yes. Now, the other thing we feel very strongly about is that we are professionals. We are professional marketers. And we're not order takers. We don't ask what they want and then simply deliver that back. That's part of what we do. But a bigger part of what we do is thought starters and ideas, and bringing them to our clients and saying, okay, if we understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, and that is, there's lots of things in marketing that you can try to achieve. You can try and expand your brand. You can be releasing a new product. You can enter into a new geographic area. There's so many things that you can try and achieve with a marketing campaign. And if we know exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve, we ask a lot of questions to get to that. But once we know exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve, then it's our job to be the professionals and come back to you with ideas and thought starters to help get you where you want to go. When you go to your doctor, your doctor asks you a lot of questions, but he doesn't ask you for the diagnosis, right?
Right.
And that's how we train all of our people. We are like doctors. We need to ask a lot of questions to understand what that final outcome needs to be, but we need to be the ones bringing the ideas on how to get there. Because if they're just telling us what they want to do and how they want us to do it, we're not really a marketing company. That's not what we're just order takers. We're order takers and customer service, and that's not what our company is.
Yeah, so it's really cool to hear how I guess a top-tier event like this is put on, and how people participating as sponsors of the event can get out what they need. And so this will help out a lot of people. So tell me, do you kind of work with companies to decide what events to do, or do people come to you, or do you dream them up and then seek out sponsors for it? How does that kind of work out?
A little bit of both. We are starting more now that we've been in business for a while, and we've kind of established our footprint within our industry, and people know who we are. We're now starting to venture out a little bit more with our own events and seeking sponsors to help us put those on. But primarily, we are a service company, meaning that we want to help you achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve. And our specialty is, live event production and event and mobile marketing, so we can help your company through those services. The road trip series of events is really kind of our first venture in putting on our own events and promoting our own events and bringing sponsors in to make that happen. And the road trip will be a series of events. This one's an autocross week. Road trip is very diverse. We can take it to any area of the country and do a week-long cruise around the Great Lakes, or we can go to the desert and do something there. We can go to California and cruise the coast. We can do all kinds of cool things with that. So it's going to be a very diverse series of events, but we're going to do this first one with autocross and see how that works. But this is really our first venture out into our own event and bringing on sponsors to help us make that happen.
Okay, and you having put on so many different events has built a reputation for you to be able to put on an event that people will want to sponsor. We're
very lucky in that regard, and well, I say we're lucky, but I think we've earned the respect of a lot of companies. Yeah, we have, because we are. I didn't realize when I got into this industry that it was an option not to deliver on what you promise, but apparently there's a lot of companies out there that do that. And so when we actually deliver on all of our commitments, we have a lot of sponsors that want to come back and say, what else can we do with you? Because we really enjoyed the experience. It worked well for us. Let's figure out how we can work more together. So we're very lucky to have a really tight-knit group of people within the automotive industry that we can go to and say, hey, we've got this idea, and we're going to do this event, and we'd like your help. And they say, sure, how can we help?
So your success is obviously has been by making your sponsors happy. So how do you measure the return from the arrangements? Or is the companies that are sponsoring the event, do they have their own, measurements for returns? Or do you ask them if it's working, the events are working for them? Is that kind of how you gauge how well it's doing?
We do. A lot of it comes from that first conversation we have with them about their goals and what they want to achieve. Because then, if we don't meet their expectations, then it's our fault, because we know right up front what they are. Mm-hmm. And as long as we know what they are, then we will work towards achieving that goal. The value that's assigned to that goal is sometimes not very scientific. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Marketing is a unique business in that the numbers within marketing are sometimes very much intuitive. You feel in your gut that something is working or working right, because if you are required to put an actual number valuation on it and say, okay, I got what I really wanted out of this, and that is that I got my brand integrated into an event that has zillions of spectators and all these participants, and my brand is integrated now. It's hard to put a number on that. I mean, if you were to say, okay, let's use Optima for an example. We've created a series of events for Optima called Optima Search for the Ultimate Streetcar. They've created we have a year-end event called the Optima Ultimate Streetcar Invitational. How many times have you seen on Facebook, social media, internet, video, where someone just refers to those events as Optima or the Optima?
Pretty much every day for me.
Right. And yeah. So what is that worth?
Yeah, and so I guess you have set the expectations by when you wrote the contract with them and to create the event. And so they now have, I guess it's not how many batteries they're selling, it's getting their name out there. And so that has what is the value of that? I mean, everybody knows what Optima is, I guess, is the value of that.
That's exactly right. And that's what, that's my point. It's hard to put a dollar figure on that, but that is immensely valuable. Because you are now top of mind. You're top of mind for all of these enthusiasts out there that are involved and passionate about it, and you are synonymous now with a thing. There's a term for that. I don't remember what it is, but it's like Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand, right? But everybody refers to the little white thing in a box as a Kleenex, right? That's
exactly. Yeah.
And so there's value in that. And what is that value? That's hard to put an exact dollar figure on, but intuitively, that's immensely valuable. Mm-hmm. There are other things that you can measure, and a lot of marketing stuff is measured in impressions. How many impressions are we getting? And that's basically eyeballs. How many eyeballs are seeing our brand? How many eyeballs are seeing our brand going down the road? How many eyeballs are seeing our brand at an event? How many eyeballs are seeing our brand on a brochure? We actually have developed a scale of valuation for impressions, because when we started this business, and as I told you, Wally and I, neither one have a marketing degree from college, so we didn't read all the textbooks to learn a bunch of stuff. But marketing impressions is a pretty standard term in our industry, and that's basically a measurement of how many people are seeing your brand. When we would go into marketing meetings early in our career with other agencies, and they would throw out marketing impressions that were simply astronomical. I remember sitting in one meeting with another ad agency that was talking about placing ads in magazines, and the number of impressions they threw out for this magazine advertising campaign was actually greater than the population of the United States. greater than the entire population of the United States. And, we threw up the BS flag. It's like, wait a minute. Now, and they said, well, here it is. Here it's scientifically. You have this many magazines that are printed, and you have this many subscribers, and then the subscribers leave it on their, they leave it on their coffee table, and all these customers come in and read it, and then those customers take it into the bathroom and leave it there, and everybody in the bathroom reads it. And so they have all these, these pass downs and pass throughs and shelf life, and every time they do that, they multiply the impressions by another number. And Wally and I talked about that a lot, and and we said, what, that's garbage. It really is garbage, because that doesn't happen. That's not reality. And we don't ever want to do or share that kind of information with our clients, because it's BS.
Unrealistic expectations.
Absolutely. And so again, oftentimes when we come in, one of the things that we really don't like to do, but we have to do it all the time, is we have to come in and sit with other marketing companies and ad agencies in meetings and share proposals, and our numbers are always low, because we actually use what we consider to be real numbers. We know exactly how many people are going to come to an event. We know approximately how many of those people might come through the booth and might step foot inside, the Optima display. And when you think about it realistically, it's not very many. Even if you go to a big, large event, like let's say you set up a truck on the NHRA Midway, somebody who is selling you the standard fare will tell you that you're going to get millions and millions of impressions from that, because there's 125,000 people there, and they're all going to walk by your booth 5 times, and they're all going to see your brand on every race car that's out there. So you're going and again, we throw up the bullshit flag, try and be honest and say, what, on a daily basis, we're going to be set up for 9 hours. We have 2 staff. Those 2 staff can talk to, realistically 20 people an hour over the period of an 8 to 10 hour day. Those are your most valuable impressions, because those are your one-on-one point of contact. You've actually created an impression. All those people walking by, they see you there, and they're glad Optima's there, and they may go back and say, yeah, I remember seeing the Optima trailer there, or something like that. So what we did is we actually created a scale of valuable impressions from the least valuable to the most valuable. The most valuable being that one-on-one point of contact, ability to talk and look someone in the eye. That is the most valuable impression that you can make, all the way down to what we consider to be the least valuable impression, that people will just give you all sorts of ridiculous numbers, and that is your truck driving down the road. You see branding, and they're like, yeah, well, you go down a major highway, and you'll pass 1,500 cars an hour in a rural area, and you'll pass 18,000 cars an hour if you happen to be driving in a metropolitan area, and all those people see your brand. We don't value those very high, as you might imagine.
Okay, so you are rating the quality of the exposure you get, and you're counting, at least in when you're getting to the person-on-person, you have realistic numbers for how many I guess people you're talking to or interacting with. And whereas like the Optima events, those are televised, and so you are getting viewers on that. Is that one of the measurements you're taking for that?
Yeah, and that is a valuable measurement tool, because we figure really anything that can be measured accurately is a valuable tool. And TV ratings now with set-top boxes and all that kind of stuff is something that can be much more accurately measured than it ever used to be. We like that. We like social media, because social media, again, you can dig down into what's being watched, who's watching it, how long are they watching it, who are they sharing it with. You can get all that data now. So those types of things are very valuable to us. So yes, TV is another valuable tool that we use, especially with Optima, because that is a televised series that we can share with sponsors and say, yes, this is how many people are watching this show. This is how many times the show gets re-aired. You have 1 commercial during the initial show. You have 2 commercials in the re-airs. So you can actually do some math there and actually get very scientific with some of that stuff.
So how do you get the word about the events you're putting on? Is that your responsibility, or do the sponsors help with that, or is it their responsibility?
In our world, it's everybody's responsibility that has a stake in the event. So in other words, if it's your signature event, we will do everything we can to help get the word out, but it's your signature event. And unless you have specifically contracted with us to do all of the promotion for the event, then we're going to look to everyone to help out. And that means if it's yours, then you have to help as well. And it just benefits everybody. So we rely a lot on ourselves, our sponsors of the event, and our network of people that we've been able to develop over the years to help get the word out about events. And just when you think you've got it figured out and that everybody knows what you're doing, the other day, just last week, I saw a post on our new event, Road Trip. I saw a post on our event page from an individual that said, "This event sounds really fun, but I'm not sure I want to spend $500 because I've never heard of FM3 or anything they do." And I was like, "Oh, dang!"
Because you're always behind the scenes, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So just when you think you got it figured out, somebody will bring you back to earth and say, "Oh, yes, here we are." But yeah, we rely on a lot of people, a lot of different avenues and mechanisms to get the word out. Social media has been a big help with that, the advent of social media, because it used to be before social media and electronic, internet stuff, you had to rely on word of mouth and advertising. You had to put an ad in all the magazines, and you had to try and get the word out to the local clubs, and you'd put flyers in cars and all that kind of stuff. We still do that kind of stuff because there's no substitute for that direct kind of campaign. But social media and internet advertising has helped us out a bunch with the promotion of events that we do.
Okay, cool. So give us some advice to people that are participating in your events. How do they make the most out of it as far as getting the exposure, having fun? Kind of give us your best advice for attending your events.
Sure. Well, I always tell everybody, you've probably heard this more than most because you guys attend a lot of our events. But one of the things that I publicly announce at every single event we do is, if you are having a great time, tell everyone. And if you are not having a great time, tell me. Because we do everything in our power to make sure that our participants and our spectators are having an enjoyable experience. We live our lives on these events. This is what we do. This is how we feed our families. It's what we do because we enjoy it. And if the participants or the spectators are not having a great time, they're not going to come back. And so I want to know right away if someone's not having a great time. So that's my best piece of advice when you come to one of our events, is if for some reason something's not sitting right with you and you're just not having a great time, tell me. Because there's many things I can change to help alleviate whatever concern it is or whatever it is that's not sitting right. There's many things I can do to help make that go away so that you can have a good time. Our events are really all about having fun. People ask what we do, and we say we're in the memory business. And they're like, "Huh? Yeah, we're in the memory business. We create memories. That's what we do." And we like to think about the events we do that way, because we try and put on events that we want people telling their kids and their grandkids about. I went to this track and I did this, and we had so much fun, and I'll never forget it. We look at that as a big responsibility. And we're humbled by the ability that people give us to do that and to be able to help them create those memories. And by never losing sight of that, I think that helps us stay on task and on track at these events. But come to our events and have fun. That's what we want you to do. If to really make the most of our event, come there with the thought process that this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun, it's going to be an adventure, and it's going to be something that I'm going to be able to talk about for a long time from now and remember in a very positive way what we did here.
That's some really good advice. And so we do the same thing. We try real hard when we attend your events, and it applies to every type of event we attend as well. So making sure you tell other people about the event helps make the event successful, not just attending it and nobody knows you went, just having fun on your own. If you tell people about it, it really brings the event bigger and better the next year as well. So what kind of advice can you give to people that may be looking to sponsor your event or other people's events? Is there some advice you can give for that?
If you want to sponsor one of our events, first of all, you have to let me know. I wish I had the time to reach out to every single business in our industry, because I know there's a lot of them out there that want to sponsor these things, wonder how they can get involved, and I think many of them are out there just waiting on the call. And one piece of advice I would give is don't wait for me to call you. And it's not a personal thing. I would, if I had the time, I would call every company in our industry and offer them an opportunity to sponsor our events. But if you're listening to this and you're part of a company that wants to get involved and you're not now, call me. Call me and tell me that you want to be involved in these type of events, because we'll have a conversation and we'll talk about what it is that you're trying to achieve, why you want to get involved in these types of events, and then I can make a position at events to fit what it is that these companies are trying to do. So the biggest piece of advice I have is let me know. Let me know that you want to be involved. The second and probably even more important piece of advice that I can give is don't rely on someone else to communicate your message. We have a lot of companies out there that are integrated into the events that we do. You've seen this when you come to an Optima Search for the Ultimate Streetcar Series event. You see all the series sponsors there at the event. You know, the folks at Lingenfelter don't just put up a banner and put something on their Facebook page. They're actually at the event. There's people there. And if you want to get involved in the events and get the most out of it, you need to attend them, or in marketing terms called activate. You need to take the responsibility to activate your sponsorships. There's a lot we can do, and we can get your brand out there. As a sponsor of our event, we'll do everything we can to get your brand out there. We'll deliver on everything that we promise that we will deliver to you. But at the end of the day, I can't personally represent every single company that is sponsoring our events. So what we've done is we've created a platform. We've created a platform for companies to come out and communicate and reach people at a very integrated level. And if you don't take the opportunity to activate your sponsorship, then sometimes you become nothing more than a banner on the fence. Yeah, good advice. Okay, so we've kind of talked about sponsorship and how running events, how people can get involved, what they can take from it, how you can measure the exposure that you're getting. So let's go back to you about yourself a little bit more. What's something that you struggle with in business, and how do you work around it or through it? Well, this might come as a surprise to some people, because we try and be the most organized event company in our business. You know, when you come to our events, you know we run things on time. I mean, literally to the minute, whenever it's possible. One of the things I struggle with is organizing my own time, and it's a personal struggle for me because I have a lot of balls in the air, and I am oftentimes guilty of, accomplishing 5 things in kind of a just getting them done sort of way, rather than focusing on one and doing it really, really well. That's my personal struggle, is organizing my time such that I'm doing my best work on everything that I'm giving my attention to.
what is your one and maybe like a 5-year goal for FM3? What do you have, like a big, hairy, audacious goal that you're working on?
Well, and this would go back to this would kind of go back to what is the one biggest problem that I struggle with, is because to me, I oftentimes have a difficult time prioritizing things, because to me everything we're working on is priority number one, and we want to give it all the attention that we can. And so when we talk about big, hairy, audacious goals, or in our world we call them stretch goals, we oftentimes don't take enough time to sit down and say, okay, what is it that we want to achieve at the end of this year? What is it that we want to achieve at the end of 3 years? And what is it that we want to achieve at the end of 5 years? We're a little less formal than that. When we put deals together, we have a hurdle rate, a margin that we need to achieve on deals that we put together. And by managing things at that level, we have been able to achieve in our business, the first 5 years we were in business, we had triple-digit growth every year. But we've been able to maintain high double-digit growth in our business every year that we've been in business, by really focusing on the individual deals that we put together and the margins and the hurdle rates that we have set up for those. Ultimately, we would like to have a big, giant marketing conglomerate come to FM3 and say, we have to have your company. We're unable to achieve what you guys do, so we want to make you part of what we do. And then, that's the big payday for Wally and I. That's our big, hairy, audacious goal. This is our retirement plan. We love doing what we're doing, and this business, FM3, is our retirement plan.
Awesome. So if somebody did come to you and want to buy you out, would you stick with it still, or would you be taking your AMX and going racing for the rest of your life? Well,
that really would depend on the deal, but we truly love what we do. Wally and I have talked about this a long time, and right now we're not ready to not do it. We're both young. Or I think we're young. Comparatively speaking, like to you and some of your folks, we're not that young, but we feel young, and we feel like there's a lot we have yet to accomplish, where we feel like we are really just starting to hit our stride. People are starting to figure out who we are. When we landed Hot Rod Power Tour, it was kind of our confirmation that what we're doing is right, and how we're doing it is different, and we're creating a space in the marketing industry that belongs to us. We're starting to be recognized. It's like when Steve Martin found his name in the phone book. He's like, "Hey, I'm somebody," and we feel the same way. We're now somebody that is recognized within our industry that's doing good things, and we're not ready to not do that yet. And we feel like we have more things that we want to accomplish. More than anything, though, we're having fun. We're having fun. We love what we do. We love the interaction with the people that we get to interact with, and so we want to keep doing that for a while.
So steady, consistent growth is really what you're planning on. You don't have really unrealistic goals at all.
I learned there's several lessons I learned as an investment banker, and in business, slow and steady is the one that really stays the course. I've seen a lot of businesses that just explode, and people notice them. They're on the cover of Inc. magazine, and 5 years later, no one's ever heard of them. It's like, what happened? That's not how we want to be. No, we are. I don't want to say we're slow, but I will say that we're steady. We've done things the right way. We have a sound business. We have a sound business plan. We don't, we don't owe any money on anything. We've built our business in a way that we feel very comfortable with, and that when it's time, it's going to be the right deal for somebody.
So we like to take action on Do It for a Living. Can you suggest one action item our listeners can take this week to improve their situation?
Yeah. call one of your customers that you trust and ask them honestly what they think of what you're doing, and see if they'll tell you.
That's great advice. I've never actually even thought of that, but it's something I should even probably do today as well. So we're gonna continue on with quick answer questions. So these are just, I'm gonna shoot you a question, just give me an answer real quick, and we'll move on to the next one. So tell us about a game-changing product you've seen in the last year.
Holley's HydraMat.
Yeah, we've heard that one several times. That one's pretty neat, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really cool. Yep.
What's some software programs you use daily?
I use Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint every day.
Microsoft guy, huh?
Well, actually, so I'm actually a Mac guy, and every tool I have is a Mac. I use a MacBook Pro. I have an Apple iPhone. I have all Mac products, but I use Excel and PowerPoint because they're the most widely accepted programs that I can share with our clients and the people I work with.
Okay, understand. Yeah, that's the same thing we run into as well. So lots of people have Excel, but not a lot of people have Pages or whatever the Apple version of it is, right?
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite app that you use daily?
Funny you should ask. I do have a favorite app, and I use it every single day, and it's called Weather Underground.
Weather?
Yeah. A lot of things that we do are weather. They're not weather related, but they're weather dependent. And how we do things, the weather affects nearly every day how we do things. Okay. And I love the Weather Underground app. It gives me everything I need, and it's the most accurate app for weather that I have ever found.
So people who are hosting their own events should be looking into this one, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we actually learned this a long time ago when we were doing a TV show in North Carolina. The TV production company that we were working with introduced me to Weather Underground, and it's the only app they used. And it's literally up to the minute weather and the most accurate forecast I can find anywhere.
So you don't really do shop stuff anymore, but what's a favorite tool, maybe a shop or something you use on your events? What kind of tool do you have that you like? Well,
as you know, we have a pretty close relationship with Snap-on, and any Snap-on tool that I use, I love. But my most recent acquisition from the folks at Snap-on is my 3/8 electric impact. Man, I use that thing for just things you wouldn't even think you'd use it for. I just use it. It's so easy to use. I use it all the time.
That was the one you guys handed out at the SEMA this year, I think, right?
Yes, and I use that thing all the time.
Okay, so tell us what you're driving right now. What kind of car do you got?
It depends on the day of the week. I'm lucky enough to have multiple options to choose from. Today, I have a 2015 Jeep Cherokee Trail Hawk.
Oh.
That is my kind of daily driver. I just got another truck after having mine stolen that I'm looking forward to spending more time driving. And I got a 2006 Ford F350 quad cab dually. But the one I like to drive most is my 69 AMX. Many people listening have probably seen it. If you haven't, just look up AMXess. It's my pride and joy. I've had it now for nearly 15 years. The car is everything I've ever wanted it to be. It's built exactly the way I want it. It is the most reliable enthusiast automobile that I've ever seen in my life. And I just, when I get in it, I smile. I touch the door handle to open the door, and life changes for me. Everything's good.
And you run it at your own events?
I don't often run it at my own events. I often bring it to my own events. But so it's been there. It's been at a lot of them. But the car has accomplished so many things that I'm so proud. You know, it's done Silver State 5 or 6 times. It's done the Sandhills Open Road Challenge twice. It's accomplished one lap of America, finished second in one lap of America. It's just done so many things that I'm so proud of it. And now my car and myself we enjoy each other now. It's kind of weird.
Okay, so let's finish this thing off here. What do you see the future of the automotive performance industry?
I still believe it's growing. I still think the automotive performance industry, there's a lot of upside in the automotive performance industry. I think what you're going to see is a lot more grassroots stuff like we're doing, because if you take into consideration the ratio of full-blown professional race cars versus just performance cars, it's 1,000,000 to 1. Really, there's every person out there that owns a vehicle that has, I always say, if someone owns a vehicle with initials after the name, so if it says SS or RS or ACR or GT or SRT, if you own a vehicle that has any of those letters after the name of it, it's a performance vehicle of any sort, you could have, would have, or should have been a race car driver. And there's millions of those folks out there, and that's who we want to cater to. We think that's the future of the automotive performance industry.
And so how do we connect with you and your company?
Well, that's pretty simple. FM3marketing.com is our website. Info@fm3marketing.com is the best way to get a hold of us. That comes directly to me, or you can email me directly, Jimi, Jimi, @fm3marketing.com.
Everybody can check out the details about this guest and all the stuff we talked about at doitforaliving.net. Jimi, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and we'll see you at your next event.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving. and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone.